Yeah, this show might be about the Famicom versions of these games, but anybody who talks about this one has to mention the US title. I've gotta believe it was intentional. The 90s were an era of aggressive, gross-out marketing after all. And if you want kids talking about your game, giving them something to giggle about with the title certainly works. The box for Final Mission is a little bit unusual. It doesn't have a proper cover. There's one side that has an illustration of an alien, and the other side that has the illustration of your heroes. Since the hero side has some screenshots, I've arbitrarily decided that that's the back. The story is given in an absolutely mammoth cutscene if you let the game wait on the title screen. Aliens have attacked Earth and destroyed all of our cities in fiery explosions. Now an action team is being sent up to space to put a stop to the aliens before they can end all life on Earth. I honestly think this is one of the best cutscenes we've seen on the Famicom so far, and it goes on for 90 seconds. What you do in your final mission is fly through stages, shooting down all of the enemies that come across your path. I know you look pretty large on the screen, but the area that enemies can hit with bullets is smaller than your sprite. Not a whole lot smaller than your sprite, unfortunately, but it is smaller. Basically, you need to protect your head and torso. At least you can take 3 hits before you die. You're gonna need those. You're not limited to firing in one direction. You can turn yourself around to shoot behind you, but you also have those orbs that are around your body. When they're red, they slide around you depending on how you move, rotating to the front when you push back and vice versa. When they're blue, they're locked into place. Pressing the A button cycles between those states. Given how hard it is to dodge things in this game, I generally liked finding an angle for the orbs that worked for me at that point in the stage, and then lock them there. Then when the situation changed, adjust them. If you just try to leave them loose, then they'll go everywhere while you're dodging, and it doesn't really help. One significant problem with those orbs is that the number of bullets that you can have on the screen is pretty limited, and you don't have to be Takahashi Meijin to overwhelm it. Your shots will start stuttering if you're firing more than 5 or 6 shots a second, let alone 16 like he could. So you really won't want to rely on the orbs too much. As you're flying around, you'll see these capsules that you can shoot open, and they'll have power-ups within them. They'll stay in place for about 5 seconds, and then start to float toward the back of the screen. There's only 4 different power-ups here, each designated with a different letter. S's increase your speed, and you can collect multiples of those. 2 speed power-ups seem to be about the right level to me. The W is a wave gun. It gives you a nice wide shot that's easier to hit enemies with. The L is the opposite of that, with a laser. Tiny beam that does extra damage, and if you hold down B, it fires in a continuous stream. It winds up being Final Mission's machine gun. Finally, there's the B, which is the bomb shot. Very slow, but it does a ton of damage. You can only have 1 shot on the screen at a time, and you can't fire again until the explosion is gone. But for enemies that normally take many hits, it can take them out in 1 shot. If you ever get hit, you're completely powered down immediately. Back to the default gun and the lowest speed. I noticed something about the levels while playing Final Mission. They're very well designed, with a lot of creative enemies and complicated paths and unique challenges for each of them. But they're all built around the same design philosophy. Ensnare the player into a very small area that they can move in. Take these beams for example. They'll shoot out if you're in front of them, so you have to stay above or below them. And in many places, they really don't give you a choice of where to go. There's also these snake-like enemies on the second level. They can snap their heads most of the way across the screen, and they take a ton of hits, and they explode into shrapnel when they die. So you're confined to a very small portion of the screen if you want to avoid them. And then there are these laser beams on the 5th and final stage. Hope you can squeeze in between those. You only get 1 life in Final Mission, but you have infinite continues. And you'll definitely need them because this one is a challenge. Between the quantity of enemies and the way that the game restricts your mobility, you have a lot less margin for error than it seems. The game is so absurdly hard that the US and European versions were made much easier, doubling the player's health and letting them keep their power-ups until they got a game over. If you are stuck, there are a few cheat codes to help you through the game. This one will give you 10 health, and if you hold down A and B on controller 2, and then press this on controller 1, you'll automatically skip ahead. One feature that can work in your favor is that Final Mission allows 2 players to take on the mission simultaneously. The enemies aren't scaled up for 2 people, and as a result, some of those tougher enemies just melt away under concentrated fire. While I might find the game balance in Final Mission to be a bit off, it is another example of Natsume being one of the best technical developers on the Famicom in 1990. They were getting every drop of power out of this system they could. This is one of the best looking games on the Famicom so far, and it's amazing that they got so much on the screen with hardly any slowdown or flicker, at least until you add the second player in. Unfortunately, it wasn't popular back in 1990, and so like many of Natsume's games, this one commands a premium, but it's still worth seeking out as one of the better obscure games on the Famicom.